Hello there. Welcome to Just the Dis. We talk about Blu-rays here. And for this little episode, I am going to talk about some new arrivals from the good folks at Severin Films. And it is a variety of stuff. Some horror, some gothic, some Jess Franco noir. So I'm also going to offer some pairings, some movies that might go with these movies, as I like to do sometimes. And we'll start with this here. This is Barbara Steele in An Angel for Satan. And this is the very nice slipcover edition of it. There is the front cover. And yeah, just that's only that artwork for this, which is fine. I like this artwork. So then this one has the great Barbara Steele, as you can see, and she is one of the great gothic horror actresses of all time. And obviously I'll talk about the big film you could pair with this one. It's probably pretty obvious to anybody that's a fan of hers, but let's talk about what this movie's about. As you can see, it's the first ever authorized American release of this film. So obviously there's been some bootlegs maybe, but this is the first time even hearing of this one. And I guess it's the last film of her Gothic Italian period, which is a great period. And it's an erotic shocker. Startling, they say on the back here, and it says when a cursed statue is recovered from a villa's lake, a young heiress, Barbara Steele, will inflict a torrent of depraved seduction and homicidal madness on the local village. Anthony Stefan, Claudio Gora, and Marina Berti co-star in this a Euro horror classic featuring Steele in all her mid-60s glory. Co-written and directed by Camille Mastrosinic, and scanned in 2K from the original negative with both the Italian and the thought lost English tracks. So you get both versions of the audio, which is always great as an option. This is region A locked. Yeah, very cool if you're into the Barbara Steele gothic. And to be honest, I can't imagine you're not if you like gothic horror at all. I mean, she's quintessential in terms of that kind of movie. And yeah, I'll talk about that in a second. But so the features included here, you get an audio commentary with Barbara Steele and horror film historian David Del Valle. So you get her actual recollections of the film, which is fascinating and very enjoyable stuff. Commentary with Kat Ellinger, who of course, if you watch this channel at all, if you listen to my podcast, I'm a huge fan of Kat Ellinger and what she does. And so this is another excellent addition in terms of bonus features. Then there's the Devil Statue, an interview with actor Vasil Karas, Barbara and Her Furs, a 1967 short film by Pierre Andro, based on Venus and Furs, starring Barbara Steele, with optional partial commentary by Steele. So you get a whole lot of Barbara Steele in this release. Very exciting stuff for those of us that love her and her work. So what would go with this? Obviously, Black Sunday would go with this. One of the great gothic horror films of all time. I mean, you could call it the pinnacle of gothic horror if you want. I think you can make a case for that in this movie. And Barbara Steele is just incredible and unforgettable in her role here in this Mario Bava gem. I mean, it's just such a beautiful, striking movie. And there are multiple Blu-rays releases of this. There's an Arrow release. This just happens to be the Kino one. But I think that putting An Angel for Satan and Black Sunday together sounds like a great double bill. I mean, you could also do stuff like, Nightmare Castle. Actually, this also has, this is another Severin release, as you can see. They like Barbara Steele, which I love about them. But this also has Castle of Blood as well, which, is a good, I believe, a really good Barbara Steele film, which I still need to see, actually. My pal Albert Kane recommended that one, and so that sounds like an option as well. But Black Sunday, obviously, really the jam to go with An Angel for Satan. But I just love new Barbara Steele on Blu-ray. That's exciting stuff to me. So next up we have some more Italian horror type stuff here with Beyond Darkness. This is from 1990. There's another movie called Beyond the Darkness, Bue Omega, which is a different film than this. This one is directed by and co-written by Claudio Fragrasso, who did Troll 2 and Monster Dog, and he's an auteur of sorts that I appreciate in terms of his films may be considered by some to be less than stellar, but I find that they have an entertainment value and some, I don't want to say earnestness, but there's something about the way that he makes movies that to me is just pretty unique, because there's sometimes leaps in what you might consider traditional logic that can make you shake your head and kind of go, what am I watching? And to be honest, that's the kind of film I enjoy. So this is definitely of that ilk. And this one is touted as one of his most entertaining, and I wouldn't disagree with that. It's very entertaining. As you can see that note down at the bottom, yes, it goes nuts. An eclectic dish featuring feverish bursts of madness in the tradition of that completely warped, normal standards. So I guess shortly after completing Troll 2, he and co-writer Rossella Drudi, who also did Shocking Dark, returned to America to combine elements of The Exorcist, Poltergeist, The Beyond, and their own insane aesthetic for what critics and Fragrasso Drudi themselves consider to be their horror masterpiece. And this is kind of about a satanic child killer that's executed who transforms this house of a young reverend and his family into a portal to hell. And it's as crazy as you would think a movie like this with these people involved would be. Shot by Joe D'Amato with costumes by Laura Gemser and an epic score by Carlo Maria Cordi, who did Night Killer. And Night Killer is another really enjoyable Severin Claudio Fragrasso release, another crazy but entertaining movie. I just think if you're on board for the Fragrasso, insanity, that this is definitely going to be up your alley, yeah, this movie is nutty, and I'll talk about some stuff to go with it. But so you get Beyond Possession, an interview with Claudio Fragrasso, The Devil in Miss Drudi, interview with co-writer Rossella Drudi, and Sign of the Cross, an interview with actor David Brandon. And you get a bonus soundtrack CD as well. And I got a couple booklets in this one, actually. So there's your Blu-ray there's your soundtrack and there's your Blu-ray. So I'm definitely going to be digging on this soundtrack. It's a very cool soundtrack. And yeah, this movie's just a lot of fun, if you're into this guy. So what goes with Beyond Darkness? I would say something like The Evil, because the idea is that this house is just totally tormenting these people, but it's a haunted house and it's lots of crazy stuff starts happening. And it's one of those things where one other sort of description of the film I've read is that, Priest and his family move into this house without knowing it was built over the place where 20 witches were burnt at the stake, and soon the terror begins. And it has elements like a possessed radio and flying meat cleaver and all kinds of cool stuff. And this one is more about a group of people trying to sort of make a place for rehabilitation, and they're sort of redoing this. I want to say it's like a big old building. Maybe it was a church. I can't remember now, but they start to get a lot of problems because this is another haunted building, kind of messes with you kind of movie, and it's a lot of fun as well, but also kind of bonkers. Not bonkers on the level of Beyond Darkness. Like that's definitely its own unique blend of bonkers, I think. So this is kind of in that vein, but not quite Italian crazy. Although this movie is pretty nuts, I gotta say. Or you could do something a little more obvious like House by the Cemetery, an Italian cohort of Fragrasso a little earlier in the game, obviously, is, Lucio Fulci. So this movie has similar vibes to Beyond Darkness in some ways. But again, they're totally, not the same movie. And the combination of all those things of, the Exorcist and Poltergeist and the Beyond, he's directly influenced by Fulci, really makes for an interesting take on those kind of films. And I think this is a lot of, it's nutty. And then last but not least, we have a really interesting Franco Noir double bill. This is Jesus Franco early double bill. You've got two of his films from 62 and 63 here. You have Death Whistles the Blues and Rafi in the City. And these are really interesting because they're not the kind of Franco films I'm used to. I'm still, the jury's still out a little bit on Franco for me. I've seen some of his films I've liked, but a lot of them are not necessarily for me, but I totally get the appeal. But these were different. These are more noir. They feel more like, not quite Jean-Pierre Melville, but like, a little new wave-ish kind of vibes. They're black and white. They're in Spanish. And, it's just different than I've come to expect from him. And they're both interesting films. I think I liked Rafi in the City a little bit better. So Jess Franco double bill here. And I guess these are following his international breakthrough with The Awful Dr. Orloff. These crime thrillers, let's see here. Set in New Orleans and based on a novel by the authors of Vertigo, Death Whistles the Blues is a hard-boiled tale of betrayal, violence, and revenge featuring smoky jazz compositions by Franco himself. Oh yeah, good music too. Jean Servais of Rafi fame stars in Rafi in the City, a nihilistic trip through the pulp underworld of thugs, snitches, nightclub dames, and black glove giallo-style murders. Both films which led and impressed Orson Welles to hire Franco as his assistant on Chimes at Midnight, now feature HD scans from the original negatives for the first time ever. And you also get an interview with Stephen Thrower, which I always love, 67 minutes, talking about the Franco and this kind of stuff. So a very cool release. Severin's just really having a good year with variety and the kind of things they're putting out. I've been impressed. I mean, I've always been impressed by them, but this year in particular has really impressed me. Just the Mike Lee stuff or, throwing Overboard in the mix, just all kinds of interesting stuff happening. So Rafi in the City is kind of like, it's on the eve of this crucial election. There's a police informer who's working for a police officer, bent on uncovering sort of the shading doings of this popular politician, and he's killed. And thugs working for him begin to be killed one by one as well. And so I went a little out there with my my recommendation for Rafi in the City. I know it doesn't sound like it would make sense, but there's a conspiratorial aspect to it that I thought maybe the parallax view might work. Just the idea of like, it's about politics, about, somebody getting killed and then people under them getting killed and what's happening, that sort of thing. It's not it's probably a bad recommendation, but it's, might work, I thought. And then for Death Whistles in the Dark, Death Whistles the Blues, which, you can describe that one sort of as, it's got elements. Well, there's one movie in particular that came to mind when I was thinking about a boiled down version of the plot, but it's about a trafficker, this gentleman who betrayed two of his accomplices. One of them was shot by the cops, and the other was imprisoned. And then 15 years later, the guy who betrayed these dudes has a new identity, and he's moved to Jamaica with his wife. And one of them comes for revenge, but this guy has some henchmen that he sends to kill the guy, and so it's sort of a revenge movie, sort of a new identity movie, and again, this is kind of silly, but like I was watching this recently, and I'm like, oh, there's kind of an element of new identity and revenge in Bird on a Wire. So that kind of made sense to me. But I think the big one that I was thinking was something like History of Violence might work also. But it is weird to pair, modern films with old black and whites sometimes. So I get that maybe, maybe watching something, one of the French, like Le Dulot or something like that might be actually a good pairing with either one of these. I think, I think Melville could be an interesting pairing with this sort of Franco Noir vibe that's happening in this set. But very interesting films, and recommended for folks that maybe haven't always enjoyed Franco's films. This might turn you around and give you a new perspective on him. So anyway, that is it for what I've got from Severin this month. Just wanted to let you guys know about it, and keep an eye on what they're doing, and look forward to their folk horror box set. Is going to be amazing. I can't wait to get my hands on that. So hats off to Severin for all the great work they're doing. Anyway, talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.